Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I'm your host, Richard Kaufman, also known as the Comeback Coach. Guys, you're going to make sure you want to subscribe to this and get the notification. Oh, what's happening? It's good. It just keeps on wanting to go. Guys, hold on one second. I don't know why it's doing that, but there we go. This is going to be an amazing conversation. I love talking about mindset. I love talking about success. And our friend we have coming on now is the Swiss Army knife of success. TEDx speaker, author, coach, does it all. And I'm so blessed and honored to have her come on today. Welcome to the show. What is going on? We finally got you on the show.
I know. Long overdue, my friend. Long overdue. Thanks for having me here.
I'm so grateful you come on. Now, I do have a traumatic brain injury, so if you see me writing stuff down, it's because I need to ask that question, but I might forget.
Writing things down is good without a traumatic brain injury, so no hate from me, brother.
Yep, I got a traumatic brain injury, but it also helps me listen a lot better, so I can hear a lot better. My first question is, if I don't ask it, I'll forget. What is your definition of resiliency?
Getting back up. Even when life kicks you down. Oh, and it will. Get back up. No matter how many times it takes. It's like, remember those like rubber clowns, the inflatable ones? You punch them and they just boing, pop back up. Be the clown.
I like that. Be the clown. So let me ask you, before we get started, some people don't know you. A lot of people do know you. Give us a quick down and dirty about who you are and how you became the superstar that you are today.
Okay, well, first of all, Swiss Army knife of success. I'm stealing that. That's amazing. Yeah, I've been up to a whole bunch of stuff for the past 24 years. I started a marketing company when I was just a wee lass. I was 19 years old. So I'm sure it's no shock to you that I've been doing marketing all these years. And I retired early, very young. I was 37. I mean, I still think that's young. So for anyone around 37, you feeling old? Here you go. So I retired young, and I ended up facing a really interesting crossroads in life, and realized that I'd always chased shiny objects and not necessarily real, genuine happiness. And I wanted to figure out what it was. So then I went down this crazy rabbit hole to discover what happiness is really made of. Found it out, became the happiest person I ever met in my whole life. And I wanted to share it with other people. So I wrote my best-selling book called The 6 Habits. I did a TEDx talk. I lived in Hawaii for a while. And then my husband and I decided we really wanted to work together. So I was like, hey, hubby wants to do ammo. You know what? Sure, why not? Let's do it. So I'm all about sovereignty, financial sovereignty with, the marketing company, emotional and spiritual with my coaching and my book, and constitutional sovereignty. So Swiss Army knife, yes. Sovereign, yes. All the things. I'm allergic to sitting still.
I love it. All right, guys, we got to go. It's been a great show.
Best interview ever. Really short.
Quick. So tell us a little bit about, were you always attracted to marketing, or was it something you originally fell into?
That's a great question. I mean, I was 19 when I started, so it's hard for me to say I was always attracted to it, because prior to that, people were like, oh, what were you doing before that? Being a kid? I don't know. Sales is something I've always been attracted to. So I don't know if you remember these, but do you remember when you'd go to school and they would give you this crappy little glossy pamphlet? It was like a big 8.5 by 11, folded over, maybe a couple pages, and you had to go out and sell candles or whatever stuff to your neighborhood. I used to do that all the time, and I used to crush it. I won bicycles and all kinds of neat stuff because I love selling and I love communicating, and marketing and sales are deeply connected. They're all part of the same kind of psychology. And the truth is, there are people who can learn marketing, but then there's people who are born with it. Well, baby, I was born with it. So it's just understanding people and understanding how to communicate with people and meet their needs. And if you're selling, in the spirit of how can I get something from you, you're missing the point. It's more like, how can I have fun with you and engage with you? and do something cool together. And that's really what the spirit of sales is. And that's always how I've approached it. I approach marketing the same way. So now in everything that I do, it's like, well, hey, let's talk about ammo. Let's talk about freedom, and like, let's talk about mental habits. And to me, it's just joyful to communicate and share love and ideas and conversations and disagree with people. And when you do that, the sales is a natural byproduct. It's not even marketing if you're just genuinely connecting with people. So that's how I look at it. So yes, I've always been interested because I like people.
And I agree. I've always been a salesperson. I love sales. I just like talking to people. That's my thing. But now I also, always, any job I always took, I always crushed it because I always wanted to know about the person. I wanted to, find out what the problems were with what they needed, and then solve their problems instead of just trying to sell them something.
Yeah, that's called active listening.
Next week anyway, you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. Well, good for you. If you pay attention to the human, they'll pay attention to you. If you pay attention to only the contents of their wallet, they'll ignore you.
So then how did you started crushing it now in the corporate world? What made you want to write a book? Because I know when I wrote my book, it was very cathartic, but it was very hard for me because I'm a low-tech redneck. And but it hit #1, so I'm happy with that. But I had when I wrote it, I had to think back and I had to go over my whole life because it was my life story and then other things. So what was it like writing your book, and what was the impetus for writing?
Well, as I mentioned previously, like the impetus was actually the retirement, because when I retired, I went from like almighty powerful CEO to CEO of the dishes, and just, feeling like this identity crisis of what the hell, I had always chased the money, the success, the awards. I got all of it. But then when I retired, there was an awful lot of silence and I couldn't necessarily reckon with it. And I'm like, well, if I did all the things, why am I not happy? I didn't understand it. So as an entrepreneur does, I got pissed off. I got really pissed off at the problem, and I wanted to solve it. And I was like, well, clearly I missed the mark. And I read every personal development book out there, and I've done all the retreats, and I've spent the money on the coaches. What the hell did I do wrong? The thing that I did wrong and that nobody actually educated me on properly was how to truly be happy from the inside. So I wanted to know how could we do that? How do you actually be happy from the inside? So, you can still pursue all those nice things, but whether you get them or not is not entirely relevant, because the joy is in the journey. So we're very destination based as a society, and I used to be. Now I'm very journey based, and it's extremely important to me that I enjoy what I'm doing. And, like right now we're fundraising for the ammo company, and, I spoke to somebody, he's like, oh yeah, well, it's all about getting there. I'm like, incorrectamundo, dude. No, if I don't enjoy the journey, if I don't like you, I don't want to do this. The joy is the point. So I needed to change me. And what I did was, and I happen to have this on my desk because I actually have to ship one off, is I built this program, the 90-day habit mastery program. It's this big like journal that I needed so I could train myself to think better. So the 6 habits are habits of the mind. And when you change your thinking, you can actually change your life. So when I retired, I was kind of bitchy. My employees didn't like me. My new husband was angry with me. I was bleeding internally from years of stress. And I just like, why did I set myself on fire? I was just really pissed. So I built that program for me. I want to be really clear. I built that for me. And frankly, I was in such a negative place. I didn't care about anybody else. But I did the work, and I went from being all those crappy things to actually being joyful and happy and enthusiastic and brave and taking chances and being adventurous and moving to a freaking island and moving away from my family and, just putting myself out there, and when I felt so good, I wrote the book because I wanted to share that with other people and give them the recipe. It's like, well, if my grumpy ass can find a way to be happy because I changed my thinking, I have ADHD and I'm really stubborn and I can be really negative. If I can do it, you can do it. And here's the secret sauce, because happiness is contagious. So then I ended up actually creating the 90-day habit mastery program as something to share with other people. Of course, people, they have the reaction, oh, 90 days. Oh, I don't want to do 90 days. I didn't want to either. But turns out marketers like to lie, and they want to have you believe that it's 21 days or 30 days to actually create a habit or destroy one. That's a lie. They tell you that so they can sell you stuff. I tell you the truth. It's literally, it takes 90 days, and I did the work. And I got to tell you, there's some days I didn't feel like it, but damn it, I've never felt more empowered, you know? And so I wrote the book, I wrote the program, I did all the things. It started out as something that was very self-serving and very selfish. I created it to share with others because I need to love on people and share this awesomeness. I just have to do it. It works. There's a lot of BS programs out there that don't actually work. And I know because I spent money on them and it pissed me off. I wanted to, the thing that finally put a period on it. It's like, nope, that right there. That's the beginning and end of it. Laura, do this one thing and you don't need any of this other crap. So,
okay. So let me ask you this. A lot of people that are watching this are retired veterans. They're either getting out of the military on their own or because they got. And a lot of us, when we get out, we know that the military does not give a shit about you once you step off base. We no longer have a career. We no longer have the camaraderie, and we no longer have a mission. And a lot of us don't have a plan. So talk to us about your plan to retire at 37, and then what that day was when you were no longer the CEO and you had to reimagine and reinvent your life.
Sure. So having started my company at 19, a lot of people begin their military careers early on in life, but after about 12 years of it, I was starting to feel some of the wear and tear. I was tired. Also, admittedly getting a little bit bored. I can't do something for the rest of my life and be entertained by it. It just doesn't work. So about 31, I started working on figuring out my exit strategy. And at 37, I finally left. The last day was bittersweet. It really was. It was, wow, I did it. Also, it was like, now what? So I've worked with people who are transitioning out of lots of things, retiring from the military or retiring from just a normal job or a corporate career and trying to transition into a new life. The scariest thing of all is not having something to transition to. It's like a frog who's run out of lily pads to jump to. You have to have something else to jump to. And the silence for me is why I decided to write all the books, because I didn't have the thing to jump to. I had to create it and discovered something great along the way. But one of the biggest challenges that I see that probably a lot of your viewers and listeners experience is that lack of the now what. The now what can cause a lot of paralysis. There's actually a gentleman I'm working with now who he is a very accomplished, formerly famous athlete, retired from that, plus a glittering career in corporate America on top of it. And he retired from both of those things. He's struggling with a loss of identity. Was struggling with sometimes some suicidal thoughts. It's like, well, who am I? Yeah. He is, he's struggling with depression, and there's a lot of trauma built into what he's facing, but also a huge loss of identity. And a big part of the work that we're doing is, okay, that's who you were for that period of your life. That is just that period of your life. It is not the whole thing. So what would happen if we decided to consciously and proactively design another slice of your life? What would that look like if you had a completely blank slate? And he does. He's got more money than he knows what to do with. It's like you can do literally anything. And you no longer need to provide for yourself because you've got more money, than you need. Now this can come from a place of joy. He and like many other people can get caught up with too many options, blank slate, being overwhelmed with just the analysis paralysis of like, oh God, I could do anything. Yeah. But you ever go to like the Cheesecake Factory and see their menu and ever get a little overwhelmed? It's a lot like that. It's like, right. And it's right now I'm reintroducing him, and I would encourage anyone watching or listening to this, reintroduce yourself to playfulness. play and don't feel like you need to make a commitment right away. Like, oh, I'm going to be that. Why don't you try things on? It's like going to the store when you go shopping, just try it on. Try it for a day, maybe volunteer for a little bit or help someone out, or like, someone who's got a business doing X, Y, or Z, go hang out with them for a day. Be an older intern. There's no shame in that. It's actually the point of life is to continually learn and adventure and reinvent ourselves. So we got to have that lily pad. It's the what's next that we need.
And for me, it was Memorial Day 2012 when they told me I'm no longer Sergeant Kaufman because I can't see because I got hurt on duty. I can't shoot, so obviously they don't need you. And for 23 years, I was Sergeant Kaufman. Well, now, who am I? Who's Richard? If I'm not Sergeant Kaufman, well, I don't know who Richard is, and it scared the shit out of me. And that was the day that I attempted suicide. But thank God I didn't go through with it. But like you said, I think a lot of us in the military, or even football players, athletes, we get so used to being who we were, and then we have to reinvent ourselves. Yeah. And for sometimes it takes a long time. Like it was 2012 when I got hurt, and it's just been the last 6 months when somebody asked me, "Well, what do you do?" And I used to say, "Well, I'm a retired veteran and blah blah." Now I say I'm a podcast host and author and a speaker. But it was the first time I ever came out with it that I'm not that guy anymore.
Yeah, I have a thought for you that I want to add.
So talk to us a little bit about that, especially talking about that gentleman, because a lot of us, you're a great football player, but there's more to me. And Absolutely. Sometimes we don't realize there's more to us.
Right. Well, I think, and this is the thought that I really wanted to add to what you were saying, you were very attached to the old identity that you had created for yourself. It was habitual, it was comfortable, it was something you knew really well. When you left, you were awesome at it. And, it was, something where you had achieved as much as you could achieve. And it kind of, in a sense, defined who you were at the time. And I think our attachment to that feeling of being awesome at something and being at the top of our game, even if we're injured, right, we still feel accomplished and like you've got a lot of things on your resume, right? You feel good. At the beginning, you don't feel like that. You feel uncertain. You feel, very timid sometimes, and you're just like, oh God, I'm a beginner. A lot of it is, well, it's two things. One, we need to reshape our relationship with the idea of being a beginner, and learning something new and deciding to just take it on with a lot of gusto and be like, yep, I don't know anything from anything about this, but I'm going to learn. And right now my job is professional student. But the other part of this, and this is so important, and I could talk to you about this for days, but I'll keep it brief. There's a difference, a positive, huge, life-changing difference between identity and role. Your identity is who you are. Your roles are what you do. Your identity are the adjectives that describe you. You're kind, you're creative, you're eloquent, you're curious. These are the things that describe you. So when I'm talking to people about Richard, I'm going to describe you and explain to them what it's like to be with you and who you are. I might mention your role, but it's honestly one of the most, I guess, inconsequential things about you, but we confuse that, right? And I made this mistake when I was retiring. I confused and I enmeshed my role with my identity, which is why I was so damn sad. Turns out, nope, I'm still important, I'm still valuable, still smart. Matter of fact, I got a hell of a lot of skills, thank you very much, that I got to take with me. So I'm still smart, I'm still kind, I'm still thoughtful, I'm still creative, I'm still a problem solver. Even though I'm not wearing the active CEO hat anymore, I'm still all of those things. The CEO was just a detail, right? And just like, would pick a role in the Army. I'm sorry, I never served. I don't know the titles, but like my husband voluntarily jumped out of perfectly good airplanes. Well, he could identify with that, but that was just his role, right? But he's still that crazy person who takes on risk, loves adventure, and loves the thrill of danger and the adrenaline. He's still that guy. And now he can take all those tangible qualities and translate them in the business world, and the moving around to different locations with his wife world, right? So the separation of role and identity are critical, because when you identify yourself as a transitory thing, that's when you get depressed. When you identify yourself as the things that compose your personality, your interests, whatever, those are more gently evolving through time, and it's more graceful and intentional. The roles are so temporary. And if you identify yourself by something that's fleeting, you're setting yourself up for suicidal thoughts, feelings of despair, feelings of loss, feelings of worthlessness. I used to be this, I'm not that anymore, so I no longer have value. Wrong. So when you separate the two, you are actually a bit more bulletproof. You can stand taller, you can take on more adventure, and you can actually look at things 10,000 feet back and be like, wow, I am still that person, and I can do multiple things. And I have all these incredible skills that I've picked up along the way with my roles, and I can do all kinds of stuff with them.
Okay, I want to dig deep into a little bit more, but first I want to thank our sponsors. Today's sponsor is Vertical Momentum Coffee. If you guys love coffee with a mission, definitely check us out. Twice the amount of caffeine, twice the amount of energy. Tastes amazing. It's all hand roasted by veterans' hands, and 100% of the proceeds go to help end veteran homelessness and mental health issues. So if you love coffee and you love a mission, definitely write coffee down below, and we'll get the information to you. Now, my question is, because one of my great friends is James Clear, wrote the book Atomic Habits we all know and love.
I'm currently listening to his book. That's crazy.
Yeah, he's awesome. But like when we're in the military, no matter if we get drunk, whatever we got going on, 5 o'clock in the morning, we're doing PT. We have a set schedule, and it seems like when we get out of the military, we don't have those habits anymore. So a lot of us get fat, dumb, and happy, or unhappy. And I find that the most successful people, like my friends like Ed Milet, Russell Brunson, Tony Robbins, they talk about how important your evening ritual and your morning ritual is to your success. So do you agree with that?
To an extent. I think that a lot of the advice that people give is written from the perspective of you and I must be the same, and therefore I am going to give you advice and expect it to apply to you. And that's actually not always the case. I love all of them, by the way, all those folks that you just mentioned. Like, I think their wisdom is great, but you also need to factor in the one thing that an author cannot do for the reader, which is stacking up the information and the advice up against who you are as a person individually. So, for example, I have attention deficit disorder. Makes me very interesting. There are a lot of problems, I guess, with folks who have ADD. Hello, I see you, Mr. Shiny Object. And ritual. We need it, but we also hate it. So there's a way to figure out how to take all those pieces of wisdom and apply them. So for me, I need to figure out, and this is where James Clear's book was really cool for me, is figuring out how I can use a lot of the wisdom and use it in a way that allows flexibility. So Hal Elrod's book, The Miracle Morning, awesome book, love it. I did it for a while. I found that I could not sustain it, doing it all in the morning. It is just not something that I'm wired to do, but it also hasn't prevented me from being successful. I had to take the wisdom. And I was like, this is awesome. I also need to completely twist this around into something that can work for me, because the wisdom is good, but the application doesn't work with the way that my noggin operates. Like, I don't like doing all those things in the morning. And in fact, I actually get bored if I do it for too many days in a row. So can I still do these things in a way that serves me, so I can still show up? You know what I mean? Like it's definitely different. And I think that's probably where a lot of people probably struggle with like some of the self-help books is like, oh, I can't do that. For whatever reason. Maybe you've got PTSD and you wake up screaming from nightmares every morning at like 4 a.m. You don't want to get on the freaking treadmill if you were like waking up in a cold sweat crying about something terrible that happened to you. You just don't. So take the wisdom. Okay, I need to exercise every day. I need to journal. Okay, if you need to exercise, how can you do it in a way that actually serves you instead of like adds to the pile of stress? Is it something you dread? Is it something that, you can look forward to? Like, how can you do it? For me, I found a way to incorporate exercise into my life. So one of the things that Hal Elrod's book talks about is having, movement every morning, exercise. It's a great idea. I'm also not going to do it. So what I did was I purchased a bicycle, some damn good running shoes, and a treadmill for underneath my desk. So every single day I move, but I do it on my terms. I'll go for a walk with a friend. I'll go for a run. If it's nice out, I'll go for a bike ride. Or if I'm stuck in Zoom meetings all day, you bet your bottom dollar I'm getting some movement in. But I do it on my terms. So I keep the wisdom, but I twist it to suit me.
And I agree because I hate doing cardio, but I love knowledge. So I kind of make it where the only way I can listen to my audiobooks is if I'm outside doing cardio. It's kind of like a punishment. So I have to get out there and do cardio if I want to listen to my
You're taking James Clear's advice then, because he talks about attaching it to something that you want to do. You attach the have to do to the want to do.
Yep. And like you said, a lot of it is habits. Now I interviewed one of the guys that actually wrote Tony Robbins' his whole first series that he did. And I said, well, what makes Tony how does he get so rich? He says, well, only 3% of the people that show up actually are going to put into work what they learned.
Yeah,
So
that's very true.
He works with Gary Vee. He said that's the reason why they can go on tour every year, pretty much the same spiel. And those same people are going to fill the same seats because only 3% of the people are actually going to take what they learned and actually putting it into use.
I know. So same is true of my
book. I have your book in my hand. I like, because I do have your book, by the way. It's upstairs. But I have your book in my hand. Tell us what we are going to learn and how we can actually implement it instead of just reading it down and saying, great book.
All right. So you want to be one of the 3%. I got you.
Of course. I'm a 3%er, so definitely.
That's awesome. Well, listen, I actually wrote the book knowing that. And although it breaks my heart, I know it's just true, right? So the book it's a practical look at how we think and why we think, right? Society has programmed us into hating ourselves, treating ourselves like crap, taking things for granted, being distracted by every shiny object. I see you over there with your ADD. Like letting people just treat us how they want and just kind of tumbleweeding our way through lives, right? That's what society wants us to do because we are, here in America, we are called the American consumer. We're not the American citizen. Keep that in mind. So if you're the consumer, right, and the big machine, the powers that be, they don't give a crap about you. They want to keep you distracted, unhappy, and they want to dump on you because they get to make money on you. If you don't want to be the American consumer, you want to be the American citizen or European citizen or whatever you want, you really, really crucially need to change your thinking. So the book has 6 mental habits, right? These are habits of the mind. They define how you think. So the things that I just described were these 6 habits you shouldn't have, but you do have. The 6 habits that you should have is being kind to yourself. This is how you treat you. Thoughts, words, and actions of love to yourself, from yourself. It's acceptance, which is unconditional self-love. It's like, even if you gain 50 pounds and you don't go out and do your cardio today, you're still a worthy, awesome human being, and you're going to take your shot because that's what you do. Like unconditional self-love. And believe me, that's tougher than it sounds. Being truly grateful as the lens that you look at your life through, including the hard stuff, especially the hard stuff when things don't go right. Choosing to be grateful, being present in all the things. Put your damn phone down, be present, right? And us ADHDers, we struggle with the whole presence thing, but believe me, it can be learned. The habit of goodness. Goodness is managing all of the energy that you allow and invite in, and intention, which is the energy that you put out to create, to build, to manifest, whatever. And all of these 6 things, they're learnable. You learned all the bad stuff. Why not take, a couple of months and just learn all the good stuff? You can actually deprogram yourself and decline to participate in this whole American consumer crap. Be a citizen, be a sovereign citizen. And I don't mean sovereign like screw the rules. No. Sovereign means you are truly free and you are responsible for you. You take responsibility for how you feel, for how you live, your health, your well-being, and your next steps and your next lily pad you're going to jump to. And you can't do that if you're passive and just letting other people like push and pull you through life. So the book offers so many practical tools. The 90-day program is sold separately. God, I feel like I'm from Mattel now. Parts and accessories sold separately. But it's a whole like journal. But there's so many things in the book that if you just do those, and they come for free, and there's even like all these like downloadable goodies. There's a 64-page workbook that goes free with the book for anybody who actually like downloads all of the stuff. Go through all of that. You will get profound self-awareness, because there's a process. It's a linear process. Step 1, you have to be aware of what is possible. If you are not aware of what is possible, you can't possibly want it or do the work. Doesn't matter. You have to be aware of what's possible. 2, you have to want it and see it for yourself as a possibility. That is inspiration. So there's awareness and there's inspiration. The second one is you need to actually engage, right? You need to engage with the material. You need to read the book. You need to actually start onboarding this stuff and really learn and get the self-awareness. That's huge, right? And the fourth thing is you need to lean in and start living that way before it's comfortable. You got to get weird, right? You got to get weird. You got to do stuff that feels really icky. So when I'm telling you, you need to practice, a lot of self-kindness, you're going to be like, no, this is lame. I'm not doing it. I remember, one of my clients still, I've been working with him for over a year, and I'm like, buddy, you are so mean to yourself. You're not going to break through this plateau unless you're nice to yourself. He goes, how do I do it? All right, pivot, go to your car, call me back. Goes to his car, calls me back. I was like, all right, you locked in? Are the windows up? Yeah, cool. I need you to just start screaming affirmations at the top of your lungs. He's like, what? Yeah, scream. Stop worrying about what people think of you. It's paralyzing you. You're in your car because I wanted you to have the cone of silence, but you need to start screaming words of love to yourself that are so loud they drown out all the negative stuff. Oh man, it took me 15 minutes to coax him into doing it, but he started to do it. At the end of it, his blood was pumping. He was like, yeah, oh, I can do anything. I'm like, I know this. You just need to actually tell yourself you can do this. Now try doing this every day, until you don't need to do it anymore. Learning these behaviors, it's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy because you have to fight your old self, and your old self doesn't want to go down without a fight. Your old self is like, no, I like treating myself like crap. I like self-loathing. I like being lazy and self-entitled. I like this crap. So you got to be better than that. And it's all mapped out for you in the book. There's millions of things that you can do. And every single chapter, every single habit has really specific instructions that literally for the price of a book, you can get that plus the whole workbook and everything else and change your life just from that.
I love that. Now, something you also said is that my whole business changed once I had a talk with Russell Brunson, and we talked about how I became a social media producer and stopped being a consumer. And I think a lot of business owners, they get so wrapped up in being a consumer that all they're doing is spending the whole day on social media, and they're wondering, well, why am I not being successful? Because you're consuming it, you're not producing it. So what are your...
You need to be in the zone of creation. Yeah. We should all think of ourselves as content creators. If we can shift and be like, I may have one person who follows me, but I am a content creator. Affirm that. I'm a content creator. Never thought I was. I was like, oh my God, I'm an influencer. No, but I am a content creator. I like creating content. I like engaging with people and I like adding value. And guess what? Sales come from it. It's awesome.
I love it. So now my one thing else I think that you really hit on that I truly appreciate is one thing I'm working on myself is being wherever I am, being present in the moment. And I don't remember the young lady wrote a book called Presence, but it's an amazing book. And it talks about how whatever you're doing, be present in that moment. Because, you know, and realistically, the past doesn't exist. The future doesn't exist.
Nope.
The only thing that actually exists is this very moment. And I think a lot of people, you know, like they think, okay, we're having this conversation. I got to do this later. I got to do the laundry. I got to cook dinner. And they're not really in the moment. And I think this is where success happens, is actually in the moment. Correct?
It does. I mean, the truth is you need to be mindful of the past and use it to propel you forward and take all the lessons with you that still exist in your head in the present. The past is a useful teacher, but the future is a really powerful inspiration. So when I talk about presence, I don't speak about presence as the only thing on the menu. The past is really useful and it's good for us to remember it. That's why, you know, our creator gave us a memory. It's why we have those things. It's where relationships come from. But the future also deeply inspirational and it gets us moving. And if we're ever going to like decide to take on goals, it's because we want to have something later. So we're doing a lot of things today for that, but there is so much value in presence. Like even right now, my phone has lit up about 15 times since we've been in this conversation. I see it and I'm like, I don't care. I'm talking to Richard right now. Like nobody will die if they have to wait to hear from me. Like being present, oftentimes it's all about saying no powerfully and saying yes powerfully, saying no to the stupid, shiny, glowing, tiny computer in your pocket, saying no to the phone, stuck, you know, putting it in a safe for a day and locking it in there, putting it in the fridge. I've been known to do that. You know, but also like, just like, don't worry about stuff. So again, you and me, we have the ADD. I've come up with so many different strategies to help me truly be present. One of my biggest struggles in my 20s was actually being able to fall asleep. I could not be present with just letting my brain calm down and you know, just be present with rest because I'd always been so busy and whatever the whole day that by the time I had some quiet, my brain was like, hey, all this crap I wanted you to think about all day long, here's all of it. So one of the things that I've been doing basically ever since my 20s, so probably last 15 years or so, is I always have a tiny notepad nearby, post-it notes or something. And it's like, wow, that's an interesting thought. Don't care. Write it down. That's a tomorrow me problem. Like, don't care. Yeah. Yes, I know I need to mail that off. I don't need to do it right now. Like, enjoy what I'm doing. Oh yeah, there's that thing. Write it down later. And it's about continually getting good at saying no and buffering and just nope, 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 and just saying no to a lot of things so you can powerfully say yes to the thing that's right in front of you. It could be the conversation with your friend. It could be a walk with someone that you love. It could be a terrible situation, but being present with things allows us to process trauma better. It allows us to move through PTSD better. It allows us to heal, grow, come up with cool ideas, and sometimes let our minds wander. I mean, again, with the whole ADHD thing, one of the things I've found difficult over the years until recently was meditation. That one requires so much presence. But if you can, again, like twist it to make it fit you, now I can meditate very easily because it's just like, okay, that's an interesting thing that just entered my head. I don't need to act on it. I don't, you know, the wisdom here is when you say yes to one thing, you are saying no to something else. So if you're saying yes to this distraction that just popped into your head, or yes to your stupid smartphone, you are saying no to you. You are saying no to peace. You are saying no to the success of whatever it is you're working on. Is it worth it? I would argue it's rarely worth it.
One thing I got to say is the way I first found you is I'm searching through YouTube, of course, and I see your TEDx speech. And
Oh,
I was like, wow, I got to definitely have her on the
thank
show.
you.
So talk to us a little bit about, first of all, how do we find your TEDx speeches? How do we find your book? And how do we get in touch with you?
So my book is available on Amazon. It's also a signed copy is available on my website. It's the6habits.com, THESIX habits.com. I have DiBenedetto.com as well, but since nobody can spell that, I decided to get yolara.com, like yolara.com, and redirect it. So there's that, but it's a nice central hub for everything that I've got going on. But yeah, that's the easy way to find me. And did you want me to talk to you about the TEDx? Is that what you were asking?
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that, because a lot of people say, oh, I want to be a TEDx speaker. So what was it actually like being a TEDx speaker?
In a way, I kind of still don't know, because I had to remotely film from where I lived. And I did not get to speak in front of the audience because it was in the middle of the pandemic. It turns out people don't want to get together with you, and they think everybody's got cooties. So it was a really, really cool experience. And it was, I don't know, it was one of those things where, like, you get on the horse and you don't know what kind of ride you're going to have, but you know, you're saddled in, you're like, all right, let's do this. It was wild, it was stressful, it was awesome, it pushed me. What was actually really the most amazing thing that I got out of it was trying to distill everything that I knew about all of this mental habit stuff into something incredibly brief that people could understand. It pushed me to be so much better and clearer with my messaging. Because honestly, if you can't explain it quickly to like a 6-year-old, you don't understand it. And yes, I wrote the book, but you might have noticed I'm loquacious. I like to talk. I like to write. I'm long-winded, pompous windbag. I was forced to be brief.
Yep.
And the brevity made me better. So even if I got nothing else out of it than the distillation process of refining my ideas and making them so much better and more palatable to people, grand slam. Like, I would 100% do it again. And I want to be really clear, I hated writing my talk. I actually really hated it. But I also kind of hated writing my book. Like, I just sometimes we don't love the growth and the blossoming process, because it hurts so much, because it's like it's pushing you and you're like, I don't know how to do this. Urgh! But I'm so glad that I leaned into the suck, if you will. Like,
Yep.
I was just like, man, I hate this. But then when I was like done with it, I was like, my God, that was the most glorious pain I think I've ever been through. I am better for it. Thank you, TEDx, for picking me and putting me through hell. I'm so grateful.
So guys, make sure that if you're watching this or when this goes out, make sure you check out her TEDx talk. I loved it. I think I watched it 3 times. Make sure you pick up her book. And it's not a book you're going to put on your end table and that's it. It's actually a workbook. So make sure you pick up the book and be part of the 3%. And
Yes.
like my t-shirt says, today I decided. Those are the 3 most important words in the English language, in my opinion. You make the choice to be the victim or the victor today. So guys, make sure you make that decision to pick up her book, make that decision to check out her TED Talk. It will actually change your business and your life. Thank you so much for coming on today.
It's been really fun. Thank you for talking with me.
I'm so grateful for you, and I can't wait to see all the new great stuff that you got going on. Oh, you guys, by the way, check out her LinkedIn profile. She's always dropping some serious knowledge bombs. So make sure you check out her LinkedIn profile. All right, guys, I love you. And remember, vertical momentum. The only way to go is up. Laura, have an amazing week and keep kicking ass.
Thanks, buddy. You too.